I think it's patently unconstitutional. It discriminates against the urban dwellers of our state, both in Houston, San Antonio, and in Dallas-Fort Worth. I think that a federal court will take a very short period of time to hold it unconstitutional. It violates every constitutional rule that's been laid down by the Supreme Court and by the other federal courts regarding redistricting. The courts have held that the districts must be equal in population, but that they must also be as compact and contiguous as possible. And this bill is not as compact and contiguous as possible.
The work of the legislature today has been on congressional redistricting. That's for districts for those who serve in Washington. There also is news today on the Texas House of Representatives redistricting. That's for the men who serve in the House of Representatives here in Austin. A Supreme Court ruling yesterday said in Mississippi, each legislator had to have his own district to run in. In the Texas plan, there are 18 representatives in Dallas County and 11 in Tarrant County who run at large throughout the county. There are several other counties in Texas the same way. Governor Preston Smith has not yet signed that bill into law, and today we asked him what his position is in view of the new Supreme Court ruling.
Well, of course, I don't believe that'll be my decision. And so far as the Mississippi ruling is concerned, I would say that this will be submitted to the Attorney General, and it's my feelings that the courts will determine and settle the matter as it applies to Texas.
Well, that means then that you will sign it and allow it to become law and let the court settle it?
Unless we find something wrong with it as it goes through our legal department, and that's where the bill is right now.
You do expect to sign it?
Yes, I expect to, unless something unexpected develops.
The wrapping up of congressional redistricting and some election law reforms and a few assorted items brings this special session to a close today, 4 days after it began. But there are predictions here that there will be several other special called sessions of the legislature in the second half of this year and next year. This is Oscar McDonald, Channel 8 News on the Move in Austin.
Oh, well, I think that in England it's a quicker game because it can be, you know, the temperature allows for it. Over here, I think you have to make the ball do the work. And because it's so warm, you know, we had a practice game last night and it was 90-odd degrees, which you must make the ball do the work because, you know, you wouldn't last otherwise.
Well, do you feel they promote soccer in England as well as they do in this country?
No, I think that they promote soccer much better over here. You know, they have kids' night. We've got kids' night on Saturday, you know. Over in England, nothing like that. It's just a straightforward game, and that's all there is to it. You know, we have quite a lot of football on the telly, but as far as promoting the game in the stadium itself, we don't have nothing like that, you know.
Are you looking forward to having a field full of kids here Saturday?
Oh, I hope so, anyway. I hope it comes off well for them, you know. They should benefit from it. I think if we can get the kids interested and get the fathers interested, you know, this is a way you can build it up through the schools, and then Americans will be able to have their own children playing for them, you know, instead of having, say, English players or foreign players coming over, they'll be able to have American players, and then I think the game's made once we get that organised, you know.
Well, I know everybody has met that person who said, I bought it for a song. But how many people have you ever met that says, I bought it for a can? Well, it might not be long before you find that person or group of persons who did buy a 16-acre plot of land out here for a can. Here's the story. These 16 acres belong to Dennis Farnick. He is a General Motors worker in Arlington. Now, here's what he wants to do. He figures these 16 acres are worth $3,800 an acre, and he'd like to sell them, not for cash, but for cans, recyclable cans. Now, he also figures that there's 220 cans to the dollar. That means if you'd like to buy 1 acre of this land out here in this beautifully wooded area, you can buy it for 836,000 cans. Now, if you'd like to buy the entire 16 acres, 13,376,000 cans. Why? I don't know, so I ask him.
Well, for several reasons, Jerry. First of all, I thought it was an excellent idea to offer anyone, regardless of economic status, regardless of age, color, anyone or any group or any organization that wants to can purchase this valuable land north of Interstate 20 here in Arlington, which will continue to grow and increase in value. They can purchase this property with aluminum recycled cans rather than the dollar standard.
If someone were to take you up on your offer, where can they reach you?
They can reach me at my home at here in Arlington. I'm in the phone book, or at 407 East Lily Lane here in Arlington.
Oh, there's one other thing you forgot to mention. It's really not very expensive. It works out to about 19 recyclable cans per square foot. Oh, also, he'll take 3 million cans down in terms. He didn't mention any interest rate. Every story has to have an ending and a sequel. And I want to be there when somebody dumps 13.5 million recyclable cans in Dennis Farnick's front yard. Well, I've got to start. I've only got 13,375,999 recyclable cans to find somewhere. This is Jerry Park, Channel 8 News on the Move in Arlington.
Is there going to be another session pretty soon, do you suppose?
There will have to be another session because we didn't appropriate but 1 year for welfare. We know there's going to be another session. There is the possibility that there'll be another session in regard to the redistricting. There's a possibility there'll be another session in regard to the primary filing fees. The legislature passed a bill which I feel is unconstitutional. They haven't changed the exorbitant fees that the court has already slapped down. They've left them more exorbitant in many instances, and I feel that there's a chance in that. This has been an unusually peculiar, particular legislative session, and I don't know how to describe it except that in some areas it didn't do what it should have done.
I'm sitting there just listening to the radio and, writing my mother a letter. These two guys come nowhere out of Batman. And one just standing to the side, and the other was just, frisking me around because I was fighting them. I didn't know who they were or what they wanted, No, it wasn't robbery because I didn't have anything. And, I know my top coat was torn off and my buttons on my white shirt, and then he fired one time, and I went over toward the living room window, and that's the second time he fired, and that's when it got me. And they went out the door right away. They didn't, go through any drawers or anything because there was enough damage done in the living room in the beginning.
What did they look like?
Well, the one that didn't do anything at all was a little short blonde-haired guy, about 145 pounds, and the other one was a pretty big guy. He was about 5'10", 5'11".
This is the flag-lined main street of Farmersville in Collin County. It's a slow-moving town of 2,300, and it's the birthplace of America's war hero, Audie Murphy. Audie won't be coming back to Farmersville to visit old friends. Audie Murphy will be buried Monday in Arlington National Cemetery, killed in a tragic plane crash only last weekend, found on Memorial Day, oddly enough, almost 25 years to the day that he returned from the war as this nation's most decorated soldier. People remember a lot about Audie Murphy here. I know that many of his friends and acquaintances are now gone, but many still remain. In Dallas today, we talked with Audie's sister, Mrs. Corinne Burns, and we asked her about this young man when he was a boy.
Well, he was a real good boy, and he really loved his mother, you know, and he was always wanting to see after. And it hurt him very much when she passed away, and it seemed like that then made him want to join services, you know.
Of course, he came back from the service as this nation's most decorated soldier.
Yes.
How did that make you feel?
Oh, I was proud of him. I was proud of him all the time he was gone, because I kept telling my husband I knew he was going to do something great, and I'd watch the papers all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the first I knew of something he did was in one of the Greenville papers. And I just knew that he was going to do something good for his country, because he wanted to go in so bad.
Mm-hmm.
And
what will you remember most about Audie?
Well, one thing, because he, you know, he wanted, when he visited us, he loved my kids so. And he just, and every time he'd come home, he called it home. And he'd want me to fix steak, gravy, and hot biscuits. And that's always what I'd try to have when he'd come home.
The family and friends of Audie Murphy in Farmersville gathered today at the First Baptist Church for a memorial service, almost simultaneously with another in Los Angeles, California. They're attended by his wife, Pamela, and his 2 children. The people of Farmersville, for the most part, don't remember this young lad who went away. They know only his record, his name, and his accomplishments. But there is one citizen, Mr. Gilbert Nix, who watched this boy grow up and told me today on the front porch of his home that Audie Murphy was a good old boy, but his family never had much. Maybe that's why he went away to war so early. He recalls another story that happened right after Audie came back from World War II. It happened right here on Main Street of Farmersville. He was signing autographs for his new book, To Hell and Back. A mother walked up and she's crying, and she said, "Audie, I lost my son in that war." And right there, he took off his Medal of Honor and gave it to this woman. Audie Murphy is gone, but his record will live on.